you know, in the movie Patton,
Yes.
Patton is sent to North Africa because to fight Rommel. Rommel is there with his tanks, and the American army is isn't ready to invade Europe, but wants to start, controlling the Germans in North Africa. He's sent there. He lands. There is a lieutenant there with a jeep that takes him to the place where there was a battle, and the Americans were decimated, by Rommel, who was just a genius, German general. Great with tanks, just like he was. Patton considered him as his major, enemy, because both of them understood tanks. And so Patton gets in the jeep. That's in the movie. It's just absolutely perfect. I've checked that this was historical, exact in the movie. They drive to the site of the battle. And they get to, in the desert, in the jeep, and they get to a fork in the road, and the driver takes to the left, and Patton said, son, why don't we go to the right, because that's where the battle was. And the driver says, sir, with all due respect, I was there in that battle, it's on the left. He said, trust me, go to the right. And they go to the right, and they get to the edge of a plateau where you see a big plain. And Patton says, this is where the battle was. Hannibal came from the left with his elephants, and the battle was there, and I had been there. I was there. Patton thought that he was reincarnated from a Roman general who had been at that battle against Hannibal and his elephants. And, the poor driver saying, how did this happen? How did I get here with this general who thinks he's reincarnated, who fought against Hannibal? And I've worked with people, as you know, I've run a number of venture capital funds with people who had that kind of intuition, and you think finance is driven by greed and so on, but at some level, greed doesn't really matter. It's getting to the truth of something, especially in venture capital, where you're going to change the way things are done. With these gadgets, with computers, with rockets and so on, you're going to go to a new generation of things. So it hasn't been done before, and the financial people, you've got 10 engineers in front of you who can do it. There is one who will succeed, 9 who's going to fail, and you have to pick. You have to pick the thinking that's going to succeed. It's not the money, and it's not the technology. It's the mind of the driver who'll say, no, let's go to the right, let's not go to the left. Patton was extraordinary in that. He was a remote viewer. And he demonstrated that again and again. There are some interesting books that I've collected from some of his lieutenants, who...
you would also have to consider that's an extraordinary state of mind, to be a general in a world war, and the consequences of everything you do and what is at stake in this war is got to be a state of mind that's very, very unusual, with so many consequences and so much pressure that it probably makes some signals more clear if you have that ability to perceive them, because you must be in a heightened state of awareness.
Yes.
Because just of the consequences of your life.
That's exactly. but you also have to be detached. I mean, eventually he's going to go to the battlefield where the bodies of soldiers who've been killed, they're burning tanks and everything else. They show that in the movie. I mean, that's where he's supposed to go.
Yeah.
But, his mind is at a different level. And
when did they first start researching this, and when did they believe that this was an ability that some people had?
Way back in antiquity.
Really?
Yeah. They had seers that the king would go consult whether he should engage in a war with. They had the Greeks had the Pythia, who was a woman who they had an area, a volcanic area where there were fumes coming out of the earth, that was supposed to be one of the doors to the underworld and so on. And there was a special cult around that place, and the king would go there before a great decision and would ask the message from the underworld, or the message from the mind of the woman who was interpreting what was coming from the earth. So that has been regarded as Adolf Hitler was in his before the war, when he got to be the leader of Germany, he exhibited, and he very much believed in those powers. I think he got to the point where he trusted it too much, and he started making mistakes, and that could be used against him.
Well, he was
because
also doing a lot of drugs.
You have to get the ego out of the way, and of course that's the hardest thing, for us to do.
Especially to a narcissist dictator who's on drugs.
That's right.